What's up, and welcome to the single player experience. As always, I'm your host, Sebastian Malden, and in this episode, me and LitUnPlay are going to be talking about all the best games that have come out so far in 2023. And I know what you're saying. You're like, oh, wait, man, hold up. 2023 kind of just started. How y'all already talking about the best games? Well, as most of y'all know, this is a stacked year for video games, and we've already gotten a lot of bangers. So we got a lot of ground to cover. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the best games so far of 2023. We're going to be doing a deep dive into One Piece Odyssey and more. And we got all this coming right after the intro. DJ, start the intro, man. Hey everyone, like I said in the intro, I have a very special guest joining me today. He is an absolutely amazing streamer and video game reviewer. This guy is amazing. And I'm not just saying that because he's also a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Like, he actually brings the heat when it comes to all things video games. You can find him at the Twitch channel literally unplayable. Like, I absolutely love everything he does over there. Very fun, very entertaining personality. But today, we're going to be talking all things video games and what he has been playing. So my guest today is the one, the only LitUnPlay. Lit, how you doing today?
Whoop whoop. Thank you, thank you. I am doing well. Thank you for that greater than life intro. Love
Man, always, always. Every time you're on the show, I got to do that for you, man.
it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You make me feel like I'm at home.
Yeah, you are. This is home now for you.
Thank you, thank you.
So
Yeah,
all this. What were you
tough.
saying?
I was gonna say, we Eagles got to stick together,
Oh
and
yeah.
especially this week, it's been a tough week for us.
Oh yeah, yeah. As we're recording, that we're off the hangover of the Super Bowl, or should I say, we're mourning the loss that happened at this year's Super Bowl. Tough,
Yeah,
absolutely tough week. But
yeah.
enough about that. We don't want to relive that right now. We move on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Lit, what have you been playing lately?
Oh man, all right. Let me give it to you. So this year I've actually been pretty good on keeping on top of what I've been playing. I made a list on GG app and I update it as I finish a game. So let's see. Let me pull up the list real quickly. But I believe the first game I finished this year was Voice of Cards, the
Okay.
Beast of Burdens. For the lovely listeners slash viewers that have never heard of that game, it is a really cool RPG made by Yoko Taro, the creative mind behind Nier Automata. And also the music is done by Keiichi Okabe, the beautiful composer for the Nier Automata game. So right off the bat, story and music are just like lit. I get it. 'Cause I'm lit.
I love it.
Yeah. No, phenomenal game RPG, and it has this beautiful card aesthetic to it. So, it's your traditional RPG like Final Fantasy. You have your party, you attack, you heal, you use items, but it's all centered around this card aesthetic. So your characters are cards, the items you use are cards. Beautiful game. It's available on Steam, on Nintendo. Phenomenal game. Other than that, I also played through Death's Door. Beautiful game, beautiful indie that I had but had never played, and I finally decided, hey, it's about time. I played an amazing RPG called One Piece Odyssey, which
Ah.
I can run the entire show and tell you all about the game, because for those of you who don't know, One Piece is my all-time favorite anime, and I love that. I live and breathe One Piece.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What
So
else
that
you
one
been
that one
playing?
was really good. Really fun RPG. Really good story. Really good combat. It definitely grew on me. Next, I played Dead Space Remake,
Okay.
which I have to say is by far the best remake I have ever played ever.
Whoa.
So the original Dead Space came out in 2008.
Mhm.
Really good game. Phenomenal horror, phenomenal action, third person shooter, horror survival. Really good game. The remake took that phenomenal game and just elevated it. There's so much. I could also spend the entire show talking about it, but just to name a few things, they reworked the entire level design of the game so that all of the areas are interconnected. You can backtrack from the very beginning of the game to pretty much almost the end. There's just the very last chapter you can't backtrack. But from chapters 1 to 11, you can backtrack through the whole ship. Enemies were dialed up to 12. So now enemies, whenever you shoot them, in the original game, if you shoot the enemy's legs, for example, a couple of times, eventually their legs would just like pop off, they would fall to the ground and crawl.
Hmm.
Now, every shot you take, you can actually see the flesh degrading, the flesh just like coming off, dying off. You can see physical changes in the enemies as you shoot them, as a way to indicate the enemy's health. And it just feels so grotesque, so gory, so real. On top of that, they revamped the horror, the lighting, the audio work. It is just phenomenal. It is easily the best game I've played this year so far.
Oh, you're already spoiling my next question because I was about to ask. I was like, is that game of the year for you so far?
Well, I think out of everything I've played so far, yes, I this
Okay.
is definitely the best game that I've played so far. I think there are some pretty good this year is stacked.
It
It
is
is
stupidly stacked.
absolutely stacked with video games. So while I think Dead Space Remake should definitely be nominated for Game of the Year later in the year, but I don't think it'll win. I think there are possible other games that are gonna take the heat up higher.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Then to finish up the list, I also played through Bioshock Remastered. I played through this Metroidvania called Guacamelee, which is
Guacamole, yeah.
yeah, a phenomenal game.
Hmm.
I had so much fun with it. I will say though, the platforming was unforgiving,
Oh,
and
it's
I say
rough.
that as someone who loves Hollow Knight and loves Path of Pain.
Hmm.
So listeners, just to give you some perspective, right? That's how tough the platforming Guacamelee is.
So, are you gonna play through the
Um,
second one, Guacamole too?
for sure. I definitely plan on doing that at some point, probably later this year. I'm just trying to cram in as many games as I can because as soon as my game of the year for this year releases, I'm gonna have no time for any other game.
I like how you said you already preface this. You're like, this is gonna be my game of the year for this year.
There is zero shot that there is, and I say this knowing very well what's releasing this year. There is zero shot that I will like any game more than Tears of the Kingdom.
All it has to be is just more Breath of the Wild, and it's already got you.
I mean, from the trailers, right? Like that's what it looks like, right? It's just
Hmm.
more Breath of the Wild with a darker story, and everything they show me about that game just gets me infinitely more excited for it.
Okay, okay. Because
Yeah,
like for me, like I'm a person who liked Breath of the Wild, but didn't necessarily like it's not my game of the generation or anything like that. But like
sure.
I like it. But for when I look at the trailers for Tears of the Kingdom, I look at that and I'm like, okay, that's Breath of the Wild with some cars in it with a little darker aesthetic.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I what's really appealing for Tears of the Kingdom, I'm gonna take a tangent from the list of
Yeah,
games,
go ahead.
is that I I really enjoyed what Nintendo did going from Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask. I like how they took a really good established series, right? And they gave us our first. I believe Ocarina of Time was the first 3D Zelda game. I might be wrong. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think we can all agree that Ocarina of Time was like the defining 3D Zelda game. And it was for the most part a fairly light story. It wasn't anything super heavy. It wasn't anything dark. It was a fairly good versus evil kind of story, and it was great. It was phenomenal story. Gameplay was great. Everything about that game is timeless, majestic, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And then when they did Majora's Mask feels like a little bit more of a underappreciated, underrated gem because it has the same engine, it runs the same as Ocarina of Time, but they did certain tweaks here and there to mechanics, and I think just the story. They went from this evil versus good story, and made it this like darker, more somber, and almost like freaky kind of story when it
Mhm.
comes to a Zelda game. Um, and the director, I believe, or was it the director? I forget who it was. I forget if it was Eiji Aonuma or Miyamoto. Said that what they're doing with Tears of the Kingdom from Breath of the Wild is what they did with Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask, or what Star Wars did from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, dialed up to 11.
That's
So
intense.
that in itself, and if you, I don't know if you watched the latest trailer for Tears of the
Yeah, with
Kingdom,
the direct.
I felt that. Yeah, the direct. Yeah,
Mhm.
I felt that like manifest. Seeing him, who we believe to be Ganondorf, resurrecting, bringing out the malice. Some of the enemies he brings out, the style in which he brings the enemies out, and looking like he's just ready to like take over Hyrule completely. I felt that like evil. I mean, the freaking one of the major things to happen in these trailers is that the Master Sword got corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
The sword that is designed to be the sword of evil's bane, it's supposed to seal the darkness, it's supposed to eradicate the darkness, got corrupted and shattered. That in itself to me is like, what the heck is going on? So I am very excited to see the potential. I mean, I think it has the potential to be the best Zelda game.
I think so too. I will say like one of the most hype moments in the trailer for me is like, especially in this last one with the Nintendo Direct that we had, was like on the bridge. Did you see that three-headed dragon?
Yes.
What? What?
There that's actually excuse me. That's actually a boss fight in one of the older Zelda games. I believe in A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll find you the name in a second, but I do believe that was a boss in a previous Zelda game. So when he showed up, I was freaking out. I was like, "Yo, is that the boss?
Mm-hmm.
The thing?" And a lot of people seem to think the same thing online, and it's very exciting.
That is.
Another thing that was really cool in the trailer was when Ganondorf is summoning all the other enemies. You can see an enemy that looks very like skeletal, very like dead kind of enemy. And a lot of people are saying that that's going to be this version's game of the Re-Deads, which are the super creepy mummies that show up in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And that's very exciting because those enemies are what I as a child remember as being like scary Zelda. Like if you go to the Shadow Temple in Ocarina of Time, there are so many Re-Deads, and it's great. It's scary. Every time that they scream, it paralyzes you, then they latch onto you and they just like kill you. So seeing that enemy make its way over to the world of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is very exciting.
Man, that's so dope. It seems like this is like a love letter to Zelda fans specifically.
I think so. I really think so. They're definitely stepping up their game, and I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, like one of the things I think is interesting about this generation with Nintendo is like Nintendo is always the nostalgia console and system, so to speak. They're the
Yeah.
nostalgia brand, but it seems like this generation of the Switch specifically, they've been leaning so hard on like paying homage to the past, even with their newer games. Like
Yeah.
Mario Kart 8 is like bringing all the tracks in at this point. Like,
It's amazing.
yeah, and
It's
then
phenomenal.
you have like you have Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, which is like a culmination of everything they've done so far, and then added like maybe 30% more content. And
Yeah.
then and then you have like Zelda right now. I would argue that Mario Odyssey had a lot of homage to the past Marios as well. It just
For
feels
sure.
it feels like they're paying. It's like a love letter to Nintendo fans. Like that's kind of the theme of this generation for them.
I agree. I totally see that, and it's pretty cool. If you think about it with the Switch, because a lot of what they showed at that direct seems to be games that are either remakes, remasters, being ported over. I think Zelda was one of the few games that looks to be like a completely new game for the current generation,
Yeah,
which
I think
makes
that
me
was it.
wonder. Yeah, which makes me wonder if Nintendo's kind of like at the end of the shelf life of the Switch.
I
You
hope
know,
so. I really do.
I also really hope so because it's been 6 years and the Switch has done some amazing things. I have no clue how Breath of the Wild runs as well as it does or looks as well as it does on the Switch. It is phenomenal. And I found out the other day that game is only 15 gigs,
Yeah,
which
minuscule.
is ridiculous. Any PC game that even demos are bigger than 15 gigs. Um, so for that game, for the size of everything of the game, of everything it encapsulates, to be 15 gigs and to run on the Switch is insane. Um, but granted, I feel like Nintendo has been sitting too comfortable with the Switch. Like, it's great, it's portable, it works. But I feel like no one has challenged Nintendo, which is why the Switch has been going on for as long as it has. And I think it's time Nintendo steps it up. If that is a Switch Pro, if that is a completely new console, I'm game for it. But I feel like Nintendo needs to come out with the next thing.
I think so too. But I will say, I'm like, I think the Steam Deck sort of changed everything. It's like, because now everyone has that handheld
Yeah,
console and with the SSD where they're getting fast load times, even if like the visual fidelity is kind of on the same
yeah,
page as the Switch, but like that SSD makes everything feel zippy. And the fact that you're playing these, not necessarily the first party games, because, Steam is more of a third party
yeah.
platform, but like the third party games that run on your PS5, that run on your Xbox Series X, are all playable with the SSD like factor into
Yeah,
on that Steam Deck. It's marvelous. It's magnificent.
100% agree. Yeah, and the other thing is that with the Steam Deck, Nintendo now has a competitor for handhelds,
Hmm.
and the Steam Deck's been out for a while, and I haven't heard Nintendo say anything about it really. But I was really hoping that the Steam Deck would push Nintendo to realize, hey, somebody's challenging us in the portable market. We need to come up with like a better handheld.
Yeah, I don't think they feel challenged by anybody, to be honest.
I
They,
mean, I think it's the complete opposite. If anything, they welcome the challenge,
yeah.
and I think that was very well exhibited with the $70 increase for Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, that kind of hurt, man. It's like
Yeah,
I feel like I would have accepted that a little bit more. It'd have been easier for me to swallow if that increase came with like a new console generation. Then I'd be like,
yeah,
okay, sign me up. But like when this
yeah,
is a 6-year-old device and after 6 years, you're deciding,
yeah.
hey, $70 now, and I'm like, what are you giving me extra for $70? You know?
I 100% agree. But I also, I gotta applaud Nintendo because their marketing strategy is like top notch.
Hmm.
If they had introduced that price point with any other game, people would have revolted. Nobody would have bought it. But they do that with the game that they know everybody and their mother is waiting for.
Yeah.
I saw that $70 price point, and you know what my first thought was? Okay.
Yeah, you were like, I'm gonna pay
Yeah, I
that.
was. I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, I heard pre-orders were up. I went to the Nintendo store and on my Switch, and I saw it said $70, and I was just like, okay, add cart, send. Like I didn't bat an eye, and I was fully aware that it was $10 more, and
Mhm.
I was like, no, because I am beyond hype for that game, and Nintendo knows that. Nintendo has my number, and it was a phenomenal marketing strategy.
So yeah, if this had came out with like Kirby or with like any other game,
I
you
would have
would.
been like, okay, really, $70?
Mhm.
Nah. But Tears of the Kingdom, send
Yeah.
it.
I feel you. I feel you. So
Yeah.
what else you been playing lately?
Let's see. All right. So to finish off that list, another game that I just recently finished was Shadow of the Tomb Raider,
Oh, good
which
throwback.
I love the Tomb Raider games. I have a huge long history with the Tomb Raider games. It was actually, I think, one of the first games I ever played. So my dad was I'm into video games because of my dad. Since I was little, my dad had Atari,
Mhm.
or and was it? I think it was a Super Nintendo, where we played Duck Hunt.
Oh
Forget
yeah.
if that was
Mhm.
the Atari or this. I think it was the Super Nintendo because of
I
the
think that is the
yeah.
Super Nintendo. Mhm.
Yeah, we played Duck Hunt on it, and I recall having a lot of fun playing that game with my dad. I also played stuff like Pong. My dad was just like all over into video games, and as soon as he got a laptop, I think that was one of the first things he did. He like found how to get video games on it, and one of the first video games he got on it was the original Tomb Raider game. Back when Laura still was just a bunch of polygons put together.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
those days.
yeah, so I played Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 on his laptop, and I was like, wow, these are so fun, and this, I can't believe that we play these games like this. We didn't have a controller. We literally played it on the keyboard and
Mhm.
with the mouse trackpad on a laptop. I,
Crazy.
I don't know how we did that, but back in the day, that was like luxury. Now it's
You
like, oh, you filthy casual, you're playing it on a laptop with a trackpad.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I love the Tomb Raider games, and when they remade this series, I played the Tomb Raider, I played Rise of the Tomb Raider, both really fun games, and I've been sitting on Shadow of the Tomb Raider for forever. I got the game back in 2019 when it came out, and I had it for the PS4, And I sat on that game for so long that I eventually saw it on the sale on PC, bought it on PC, and I played it through on PC.
That's crazy. So you almost you bought the same game twice just because you forgot about it?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I understand. I understand.
um, but yeah, super fun game, great exploration, fun combat. Like I think they really hit it. Like they nailed it with this new trilogy that they made, and I really hope they keep making these games.
Yeah, I think they got bought out by the Embracer Group, right? Is that
I
now
think so.
a
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because it's Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics, and I think Crystal Dynamics got bought out by someone.
Yeah. That's crazy though. I liked the new Tomb Raider trilogy. I didn't quite love it as much as I loved Uncharted, like especially Uncharted 4 because
Yeah,
I
uh,
love that game, but
agreed.
yeah.
100% agreed. Yeah, the Uncharted series is great, and four was. I still think it's a crime that Overwatch won Game of the Year over Uncharted 4.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I
Same here.
I will never get over that, and I will never forgive the Game Awards for doing that.
I'm completely right there with you. But you know,
Yeah.
like I'm always advocate of like, hey, like I feel like my game never wins game of the year almost. Like it's half of the time at least it never wins because like It Takes Two won and I was just like no shade on that game, but I was just
Yeah,
like that is not my king. That is not the king who
it's
represents me.
so true.
Mhm.
Um, so I think the first time I ever watched the Game Awards was in 2019, and that was the year that both Sekiro and Death Stranding came out.
Mhm.
And granted, I hadn't played Sekiro, so I was like oblivious to it. I honestly don't even know why I didn't play it because I'm a huge From Software fan by this point, and I guess I just never got around to it. But I did play Death Stranding, and I love Death Stranding. So going into it, I was like, I hope Death Stranding wins Game of the Year. And throughout the whole night, anything that it was nominated for, it ended up winning. And I was like, okay, this is looking good. And they get to Game of the Year, and it's like, oh, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. And I was like, really? And you can ask. I have a good friend of mine who's even more of a fan of the From Software games than I am. I texted him and I was like, really, that game won? He's like, yeah, why wouldn't it have? And I was like, because that's Stranding. And I was almost like upset that Sekiro won. And it was the year 2 years after that in 2021, I finally get around to playing Sekiro, and I was like, yeah,
I get it
okay,
now.
this is the stuff. So I look back to 2019 and I'm like, how stupid I was.
I get it too. And like, you know,
Yeah,
it's one of those things to where like it's revisionist history to where you can go back and play the game now and you're like, oh, I completely understand. I was on the wrong side
yeah,
of history, you know?
100%. Yeah, no shame on Death Stranding. No shame to Kojima. Kojima Sensei is amazing, and Death Stranding was a phenomenal game. But Sekiro was without a doubt the better game.
Yeah, so Death Stranding is one I didn't connect with, but I could see why.
That's was that pun intended?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. But I could see why people really just like the game. But for me personally, I was just like the gameplay element didn't quite strike
Hmm,
me as like being engaging more so. I
okay.
always felt like I can be playing something else right now. But I get the concept and what it was trying to go for and what it
Yeah.
absolutely nails. But it's just one that didn't speak to me on a personal level.
No, that's understandable. Yeah, the gameplay takes a while to get started. Like it's one of those games where like you start playing it and like you get through the tutorial, you get through the first like couple of things and you're like, it feels like something's still missing. Like when is
Mhm.
that game supposed to like really kick in? And it does take a while. But towards the end, like once you have the whole picture, like the story is, phenomenal. The story from start to end is insane what Kojima came up with. Um, and yeah, the gameplay struggles a bit at the beginning, but once you get towards the end of it, and like you have all sorts of weapons and items available to you, the gameplay just feels phenomenal.
You know
Yeah,
what?
no,
Playing Death Stranding made me really miss Metal Gear. If I'm being honest with you, it made me
same,
it made me miss that, and I was just like,
same.
oh, I would love to see what a modern day Metal Gear would be like with this. Oh,
Freaking Konami.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be great to have the Metal Gear franchise back on, but the thing is like if you want to take the games that are already made, right, like Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, and 4 even, and remake them, remaster them, go for it. Great. But I would be super hesitant to support a completely new Metal Gear Solid game if Kojima's not involved in it. I
You know,
think Metal Gear without Kojima is not Metal Gear.
okay, so here's my like exercise for you for the next couple minutes. If
Okay,
you so let's just say you're the big wig at Sony, like they've now promoted you, you're head of Sony, the gaming division.
nice. I'm
So
finally getting a PS5.
yeah, that's amazing. So it took all that to get a PS5. That's funny. So
No, I was fortunate enough to get a PS5 like a year ago. So no, we're
yeah,
good. We're good.
so you're in charge of everything going on. What would you
Okay,
do? And you've completely bought out the license to Metal Gear Solid. Like you now own Konami. So I'm like,
nice.
what would you do after that step?
If I owned Konami, you would see remakes of a lot of games under the sun. I would green light immediately a remake of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Okay.
I would green light a remake of Symphony of the Night, the Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Hmm.
Those would be like my two first priorities to get both of those games remade in all its glory. You know, I would give it the Dead Space remake treatment.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I
Which
would start
studio?
there.
Which studio are you assigning these projects to?
Oh, that's that I have no clue. Um, that would require something, you know, because of the Dead Space remake, like my mind goes to Motive Studio for a Metal Gear Solid remake, but I don't
Mhm.
know how they would handle that. I mean, they have the survival horror nailed down, um, but I'm sure there's a another studio. There's probably a better studio out there to handle a Metal Gear Solid remake.
Maybe Blue
Um,
Point. They've been doing a lot of remakes in the past.
Blue Point does good work. Maybe Housemark, the
Housemark, that'd
guys
be good.
who did Returnal, that would be a team I would trust as well. And then for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I also have no clue who I would get, but it definitely have to be someone who's an expert in Metroidvanias. Um, I
Yeah,
I I would love to get Team Cherry in on it, you know, to take them from indie to like elevate them to like here's a huge budget, remake one of the greatest Metroidvanias ever, and you know do it justice. Um, but you know they're still busy with Silk Song, so I'm gonna let them be.
yeah. Let them do Silk Song. I would say, like, I'd say it's appropriate because, like, and you already are getting that Dead Cells like DLC for Castlevania. To just go ahead and take that team, I think it's Motion Twin, and just let them do it.
Okay, okay. You know what?
Yeah.
I like what you're. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I think so. I think that would be. You know, I have yet to play Dead Cells, but I've seen enough of it and heard enough of it that I know it's a phenomenal game.
Mhm.
And yeah, if the devs who made that game want to take on my Castlevania Symphony of the Night remake project, I'd be okay with it.
Okay. Okay. So no more pachinko scenes in your
No,
Konami.
okay, yeah. Can we talk about that for a
Yeah.
second?
Go
That shit
ahead.
needs to stop. Like Konami is clearly investing their money in the wrong place. They cancel Silent Hills.
Mhm.
They cancel, I forget what else they canceled, but they've been killing IPs or letting them sit on ice for forever. And what are they doing? They're making pachinko games. Bruh.
You can't write this, man. You can't make this
No,
stuff up.
no, it's you really can't. The jokes write themselves. Like,
It's
what are
bad.
they doing over there?
I have no idea. Because I'm like, if you just have anybody at the top that's passionate about video games, there's no way you could just say, yeah, pachinko machines. That's
Yeah,
what we're
let's
gonna
go.
do next. Yeah. That's crazy to me.
It's insane. I don't know how that came to happen, but I don't think Konami is thinking straight.
No, for sure not. For sure not. So in this like exercise we've been doing here. So we're bringing back Silent Hill, we're bringing back Castlevania, and we're bringing back Metal Gear. We're remaking all the Metal Gear games, or are we just sticking with the first 3 or 4?
I would say let's remake the first one. Let's see how
Uh-huh.
reception is, and then I would like to just take it 1, 2, 3 up to 4. I think 5 came out recent enough that it doesn't need a remake. I think 5 is fine as it is. Um, maybe, I think it'd be cool to take the ones from the PSP. So Portable Ops 2, and Peace Walker,
Hmm.
and make those like full fledged like mainline treatment games. I think that could be cool as well.
I think you should
And
bundle those, make them all
yeah,
full-fledged games, and make them like
for sure.
one big game together.
Yeah, yeah. Similar to what Nintendo should have done with Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker, remaster them and port them all three together over
Hmm.
to the Switch. And Nintendo did that with Mario, right? They did Super Mario 64.
The All-Star
Um
Collection.
yeah, yeah, the All-Star collection. What was that? It was Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, right?
But why just the first Galaxy? Why not Galaxy 2?
Exactly. Exactly. You see, listeners, here at the podcast, we get down with the real questions.
I'm telling you.
Why not Galaxy 2? Yeah, exactly. Why is Nintendo holding out on Twilight Princess, which is arguably the best Zelda game as of right now, and not porting it over to the Nintendo, like to the Switch?
Like I was gonna like title this as a deep dive discussion episode, but this is starting to become weird video game decisions. That's what this episode's becoming. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. So,
That in the Nintendo slash Konami rant.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, but yeah, I think Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3,
Mhm.
or yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4, I loved 4. 4 was such a good. It was actually the first Metal Gear Solid game I ever played. And then I kind of like went backwards and played the other ones, but 4 was so good. I would love to see that come back in like a phenomenal remake.
Okay, I can understand that. I can
Yeah.
understand that. Five was my first Metal Gear. Like I had never
Mm,
played any of the Metal Gears until like five came out, and then like I was so hooked and sort of like bummed out just found out that it was only half a game, so to speak. I was
yeah.
like, "What are y'all doing? Why'd y'all only put out half a game? Like, where's the rest
Yeah.
of my game at?"
Yeah, because you didn't give me a half discount off. You made
No,
me pay
you
full price for it.
full price, but you gave me half a game. I'm like, somebody got to see me in
Yeah.
the street for this.
What was really good about something really good that 5 did was finally connect the entirety of the timeline.
Hmm.
There was a gap in Metal Gear Solid story that kind of didn't make sense, and 5 finally came out and it closed that gap, and it gave such a good closure as to the story of Big Boss, the story of a punished Venom Snake. And I gotta say, Kojima came up with such a beautiful world, such a phenomenal story with Metal Gear Solid. And to me, the whole Big Boss does this like face transplant, does the psychotherapy on a random medic, and makes him think that he is Big Boss. And now the existence of Big Boss is actually two people. And the whole punished Venom Snake plot that goes out of that is what is insane. It is one of the coolest storylines in any form of media I've ever experienced. Um, it's so good, and like the entirety of the Metal Gear Solid, the entirety of the Metal Gear story is just phenomenal. There's actually a video on YouTube that you can watch. It's about 12 hours long, and it takes every single cutscene out of every single Metal Gear game, and it puts it together so that you can get like a comprehensive understanding of the entire story, and it is phenomenal. Make some popcorn, throw it on the TV, lay in the couch, and just like watch the whole thing. It is great. It is like the greatest movie ever.
That's crazy. I'm gonna have to start at like 12 and then end at midnight.
I did that. I did that once. It was like the weekend.
Mhm.
I had nothing better to do, and I made some popcorn. I had some beers and food ahead of time, and I just sat there and I watched the whole thing, and I was like, "This is great."
That's amazing. That is amazing. So, would you rather Kojima make another Metal Gear game like Metal Gear 6, or would you rather him work on more Death Stranding or a brand new IP?
I would rather. So Kojima's working on Death Stranding too, which I am
Hmm.
super excited for. Um, Depending what he does in the story with that game, there might be the possibility for Death Stranding 3.
Yeah.
But I think at this point I want to see a new IP from Kojima, and I want to see like a genuine horror game out of Kojima.
Oh,
Um, that PT trailer, a playable trailer that he
yeah.
did,
Hmm.
was probably one of the craziest and scariest things I have ever experienced. That PT had me like in shambles while I was playing it. I was like, "Get me out of here now!" Um, And I cannot imagine what a full-fledged horror game by Kojima would be like. I would probably not be able to play it at night. I would need to have my comfort blanket on. I would need to have like 3 other people in the room with me, and the lights would have to be on.
So, what if he made that as a VR experience? Like he did that and it was
Bro,
PlayStation VR too.
are you are you trying to give me a heart attack?
I'm not gonna
I
play it.
said
I already
I
know I'm
said
a
I want
chicken.
to play the game, not die from a heart attack.
Man, I'm
I would jump on that like yesterday.
so
You know,
you're down for the
I
heart attack, is what you're telling us.
yeah. If Kojima makes a horror game, he's like, oh, but I'm only releasing it in VR. We're gonna put our big boy pants on,
Mhm.
and we're gonna put our brown pants on top of the big boy pants on, because I don't want anybody realizing. Yeah, no, I would be so down for it. So I own a VR headset, which you can actually see right
Yeah.
here. And horror games is the one thing I've refused to play on them. I think the scariest I got to playing on VR was Resident Evil 4, which I wouldn't really call it a horror game. But I guess technically it is, right? It's a survival horror. And that was a lot of fun. Like I had a lot of fun playing that in VR. But I know VR has like genuine horror games, and I don't know if I could stomach that. But if it was a Kojima made one, I would, put the big boy pants on and give it a try.
And that's your $70 is gone at that point, huh?
I love how we're assuming that it's. I mean, yeah, realistically, it would probably be $70.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be $70 to. I would be paying money to have constant heart attacks and anxiety.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah,
Like I'm looking at the lineup of VR, and I don't necessarily feel like I'm impressed by what's come out so far.
yeah.
That said, are you going to invest in the PlayStation VR too?
So I really considered getting one because of the Horizon game, the Call of the Mountain.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed both Horizon games. It's amongst my favorite open world games I've ever played. Um, and Call of the Mountain really looked really cool. When I bought this VR headset, I really got a kick out of playing Resident Evil 4 in VR. Like I think that is the definitive way to play Resident Evil 4, at least until the remake comes out. But I got a real kick out of playing that in VR. Games like Super Hot. Super Hot was so much fun in VR. It was a workout. It was a workout and a half, but it was a lot of fun. Um, so when I saw the trailer for Call of the Mountain and some of the gameplay, I was like, this looks really cool. Like
Oh,
this
it
could
looks
be a
very
really,
premium. Hmm.
yeah, like a really fun experience. Um, but I think I'm gonna wait and hope that it gets ported over to PC, because to buy one the PlayStation VR headset 2 is kind of expensive, and
$500. Yeah.
that's a lot. I think I paid like 300 for this one, and
Hmm.
even that I was like, yeah, 500's a lot of money, and to buy it just for this one game is also like I can't justify that right now. Maybe down the line if they release more games, but as of right now, I don't think it's worth it.
I don't either. I'm gonna be honest with you. At
Yeah,
$500, I'm like, you can just buy another PlayStation at that point.
yeah, that
Yeah,
facts.
for sure. You can just buy another PlayStation at that point.
You know how
Like
much food that is?
that is a lot of food. That's at least 3 weeks of groceries.
At least.
At least. At least 4 cases of eggs at the time of this recording. So
uh,
so yeah, it's been crazy. It's been crazy.
yeah.
Like so we got off subject a little bit. What else you been playing?
So the last game that I finished was Metroid Prime Remaster, which
Oh.
came out the day of the direct. So that
Shadow
was
dropped.
what yeah, it
Mhm.
shadow dropped a week ago actually on Thursday. Um yeah, that or actually Wednesday was the direct, right?
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
Wednesday. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I was home that day. Yes, it must have been Wednesday. Yeah, that was really cool, dude. I know everybody in the community has been asking for that, like the entire trilogy to be remastered and ported over to the Switch. So when Nintendo made the announcement, I was like, wow, this is so exciting. Even if it's just the first game, I was like, this is a step in the right direction. This is so exciting. And then they're like, oh, available later today. I lost my marbles.
I bet you did.
I was like, what? What do you mean available later today? And as you can imagine, I went to the Nintendo store. It was actually just after I put my pre-order in for Tears of the Kingdom, I
Mhm.
was like, oh, that's right, the the Metroid Prime a remaster is out too, so I went and bought that next to it.
That's crazy. So Nintendo just racked up that on that day, huh?
Yeah, because and the crazy thing is that I didn't buy just one copy of Tears of the Kingdom. I bought the standard edition on the eShop so that I can play it the second it becomes available. And then I think a day or two after that, I was able to secure a pre-order for the collector's edition from GameStop.
Mhm.
So yeah, so Nintendo has consumed my soul and my wallet this last week.
They got all the grocery money from you this week, basically.
And yeah, I am starving. I'm gonna have to not eat for a couple of days, but it's okay. It's okay.
Let me know. I'll send you a care package full of oodles and noodles.
But yeah, so I played through that and I finished it last night actually.
Okay.
um it was really good. It was faithful to the original game. It made some changes here and there for the better. I think it's quality of life improvements. And yeah, it was great to be able to play the game on the Switch finally. So I'm hoping, sales look good for them. I'm hoping that they do the same to too. And if they do go ahead and remaster Echoes, I hope that they give it like a proper treatment, not
Mhm.
just like enhance it visually, but like I need some quality of life improvements. If they can tweak some of the level design, that would be great too. Because two was a rough experience. Two attempted to do what one did, and it was just kind of not there.
So
Um,
from what I'm hearing, like, I think it was Jeff Grubb who like reported that, like they're in the making of already doing 2 and 3 for the remasters of
nice.
both of
That's good.
those.
That's good.
But,
I
like,
love three.
do you
Three,
really?
corruption. Yeah, corruption. I was my favorite one out of the three. I'm a huge sucker for any kind of a medium when they do the whole dark version of the hero.
Mhm.
In Echoes they started Dark Samus, but it wasn't really until three that you actually get to throw down with Dark Samus, and like the whole phase and like how Samus is infected by the phase and you're degrading as you continue the game. I love that like kind of plot line in the story. So yeah, three was awesome. I really enjoyed three. So I hope they get those remasters out fairly quickly so that I can give Nintendo even more money.
You're like that meme, was it a Fry from Futurama where he has all the money up and he's like, just take my money, basically.
Just take
Yeah.
my money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me with Nintendo right now. They have me on a hook, line, and sinker, and it's shameful, but I will admit it.
So what I gotta know, like you were watching the direct, what was the game you were playing with the direct, like while the direct was like going on, and then like all of a sudden you saw Metroid drop and you were like, oh, this game got pushed to the side.
So I was playing. Oh, actually, I actually didn't do that, which I'm
Okay.
very proud of. So I was playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and as soon as I saw that Metroid Prime was available, I bought it. I downloaded it, but I was like, I'm gonna wait till I finish Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But the only reason I did that is because I knew I was close to the end of Tomb Raider. I could feel that I was coming to like the final mission because everything was kind of like starting to wrap up. And I'm like, I have maybe like an hour or two left on this game. And
Okay.
sure enough, I went back to it after the direct. I played maybe 3-4 hours and I finished it. And I was like, okay, now we can go to Metroid Prime.
Okay, so
So I
you
was good. I was at least good about it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Nothing got brushed off to the side or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I was good about not doing that.
I like it.
Um, yeah.
So we're coming up on a year that's big on remasters and remakes. You got like Metroid Shadow dropped. We got that. Dead Space has got its own remake.
Yep.
We're getting. It seems like this year is going to be a big year because what is it? Resident Evil 4 remake is coming out like in
And
36 days.
that's
Yeah,
the big boy.
yeah.
That's a big boy of remakes coming out. I am Resident Evil 4 is one of my all-time favorite games. And as soon as they announced that remake, you know what I did? I went to Steam and I pre-ordered it.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
It's bad. It's bad. Listen, this week we've been suffering emotionally a lot, and
Mhm.
my wallet has unfortunately taken the blunt of it. I have between you and I and the listeners, I have spent way too much money this week on things that I definitely did not need.
I
Um,
understand. I understand.
yeah, I saw going a bit off track. I saw on Amazon Darth Vader lightsaber, like the VFX, like the
Oh.
legit lightsabers on sale. And I was like, that's cool, but like, it was like 250. And I was like, it's
Mhm.
still a little bit of money. So I wasn't gonna buy it. But when I clicked on it, Amazon was like, "Oh, this item is eligible for payments in installments,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, you suckers!" I immediately I bought
You
it. So that's supposed to arrive tomorrow, and I'm very excited.
That's hype. You're gonna have to send me a picture of it. I'm excited to see
Oh,
that.
I'll make sure to post it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this year with all the remakes, it's very exciting. It's really hard. I knew going into 2023 that my wallet was gonna need some policing
Oh, yeah.
because there's just so many games coming out that look so good, and I genuinely want to play them. And Resident Evil 4 is one of them. Like I am beyond excited to see the remake. Like from what we've seen, the trailers, the gameplay, it looks crazy.
It
It
really
looks like
does.
they took the anime aspect of it and dialed it up to 11 because it just looks so hype, so amazing. Like I cannot wait.
So, I wanna ask you a question. Like, you've been playing quite a few games here, but I've seen some gaps in the resume for 2023. What are the games that you feel like you missed out on so far?
So I think the biggest game that I haven't played is Hogwarts Legacy.
Okay.
Um, Growing up, I wouldn't say that I was like a huge fan of Harry Potter. I did watch the movies. I recall going to the movie theater to watch them on like premieres. Um, and it was something I definitely enjoyed, but I wouldn't, I'm not a diehard fan. I haven't read the books. If you ask me what my house is, I would probably say Gryffindor because I'm a basic bitch. Um, but I like the color green, so probably Slytherin. I don't know. But I didn't get the game because I felt really conflicted about it.
I understand that.
Um, yeah, there's so much controversy going on with what the
J.K.
creator of
Rowling.
this, yeah,
Mhm.
with J.K. Rowling, with the creator of the series. I think she's a awful person for some of the comments she's made, some of the actions she's taken. Um, so off the bat, I was like, I don't want to support her in any way, shape, or form. And even though she didn't make the game and allegedly isn't associated with it, it's still her IP. She still gets to claim royalties on it.
Mhm.
Um, so I felt really conflicted with the game, or like right off the bat. Um, so I kind of made the decision myself. I was like, I have friends who are transgender, who are part of the LGBT community, and I was like, I'm not gonna make a huge deal online and harass people, but I also didn't want to not support my friends. So, I kind of took it upon myself and I was like, I'm not going to support this game by purchasing it. But, I also think that, if people want to play it, it's their free time, it's their money, they can do whatever. I'm not going to go harass somebody because they want to enjoy a game. Like at the end of the day, it's just a video game. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to be able to separate the artist from the art.
Mhm.
But I empathize with the people who are feeling attacked, who don't want to support the game, who are very much boycotting the game. And I'm just trying to not be part of all the controversy, all of the big bad stuff that's going on, and to help out where I can.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand that completely.
yeah. So yeah, I didn't play the game. I didn't buy it. But it's kind of funny because I entered a giveaway, and for those of you who don't know, I spend most of my free time on Twitter just joining giveaways. If there's a giveaway for something, I tend to enter it because I play the odds. Sometimes it's worked out. I got a Dying Light Platinum Edition from Fextra Life because I entered a giveaway.
That's
I
crazy. They really
won.
work?
Yeah, I did. I entered it, and whenever the thing ended, the next morning I woke up to a notification saying that I was chosen, and they sent me a code for the platinum version of the game, which includes the base game and all of its DLCs.
Mhm.
Um, so that was super exciting. I've also won physical things. I entered a giveaway for one of my favorite third person shooters, which I believe it's technically an indie game, called Remnant from the Ashes.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
were doing a giveaway for a poster, and I won the darn thing, and I have it. I haven't rehung it up, but I do have the posters sitting around somewhere.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, so I spend most of the giveaways I don't win, but every now and then something happens. Um, And I joined so many giveaways that I don't really pay attention to what I join. Like half of the time, if I win something, I'm like, I don't recall joining that.
Hmm.
And that's what happened. I think it was Monday, right? So I go to sleep. I cry myself to sleep over the game, very heartbroken. And I wake up Monday to a gazillion notifications, and I'm like, what's happening? And I look at my phone and I see that I was tagged in something, and I was like, who tagged me? And I was like, I swear if someone's making fun of the Eagles today, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I was actually tagged in a post because I won a giveaway for a TV mount. So it's like a physical
Whoa.
thing that they're sending me.
Hmm.
And alongside the TV mount, they also send me I also won the giveaway included the TV mount and a copy of Hogwarts Legacy. Um but they sent me the money for the game. So they sent me a hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I thought we cut out my internet was acting up.
No, no, you're good.
Um okay, so yeah, so they said that I won the TV mount and they sent me $75 to purchase Hogwarts Legacy. Um so once again I was like, wow, I initially I thought that they were going to send me a code for the game.
Yeah.
And I was going to be like, okay, I'm not buying the game. I literally won it in a giveaway. I might check it out. But when I found out that they were sending me the money instead of the game itself, I went back to being conflicted because I was like, okay, I'm not gonna use my own money to buy the game, but
Hmm.
they literally gave me money for the game. So now I have to make a decision. Am I gonna use this money for a different game, or am I gonna use it to play Hogwarts Legacy? Because let's be real. At this point, I want to give away for it. If I'm gonna play the game, it's off of this money that they sent me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
If
for
I
sure.
if I don't play it now, then I'm not gonna play it at all. Um, but Wolong, which is
Fallen
a
Dynasty.
yeah, Team Ninja game, very similar to the Souls games, is coming out next month, early next month. I think like March 1st or March 3rd.
Yeah, I believe so.
Um, and it's $60. So I could use this money that they send me to buy that game instead. So it's like what do I want to do? Obviously, I'm more interested in Wolong, but at this point, if I don't get Hogwarts Legacy, I'm most likely not gonna get it or play it.
So let me ask you, what consoles do you normally play on?
Normally PC, but I also have a PS5 and the Nintendo Switch.
Okay, making
So
sure, because I was gonna say if you had Xbox or like if you had Game Pass, Wolong's coming to Game Pass.
that's true. That's true. Um, yeah, but I go back to the initial argument that I had with myself, right? Like it's like, okay, well, technically it's not my money. It was given to me, but
That's
I'm
true.
still making the conscious decision of purchasing the game. Um,
That's true.
so I don't know. I think unfortunately, the internet space, especially Twitter has been super toxic with everything that's going on. And I get it, right? Like it's a very controversial thing. It's a very difficult thing for a lot of people. So I get why there's all this like anger and just general upset from everybody. But what I don't like is how people are being harassed
Yeah.
about it. There was an instance with I don't know if you know of Girlfriend Reviews. Is a very
Yeah, that
popular
was
YouTube
so
channel.
sad. Yeah.
I was heartbroken for them. They make amazing content. They're genuinely awesome people. Um and they tweeted out that they were going to play the game, and obviously everybody was like, how could you do this? Like we thought you were an ally, all this, right? And they're like, well, it was given to us because we're game reviewers. That's kind of what we do. But it was so much hate, and then on the stream, they made Shelby cry. It was just really upsetting, and that's what I can't get behind. Boycott the game, don't play it yourself. But one, don't tell people that they can't play something, they can't do something with their money or their free time, and much less don't go and harass people because they're choosing to play the game.
I
Like
agree
that
with you.
that to me was just like ridiculous.
I agree with you. We almost forget that because of the freedom of speech and because we're able to say something, we almost forget like, should you say something? I feel like that is a
Yeah,
question more people need to ask. Should you say something, and how is that going to impact other people? Because like
yeah,
your words have power, and also like just treat people the way you want to be treated. Like don't
yeah,
harass other people. Like just
yeah.
simple as that.
The golden rule. I'm pretty sure we all heard that as a kid.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, so that sucks, you know. It's like on the one hand, I don't want to support anything related to this. Um and on the other hand, it's like I'm a bit curious about the game. I would like to try it out, but maybe, you know, if it goes on sale, maybe if someone lends me a copy of the game, I don't
Hmm.
know. The besides the controversy and everything going around with that game, like the game itself, watched some gameplay and I gotta say I wasn't very interested in it. I was actually kind of disappointed from what I saw. It looked super basic. It looked like almost a ripoff of the Souls formula, but like in the completely wrong way.
Imagine
Um,
if Fable and the Souls games had a baby,
mm,
and
okay,
so you got Souls Light, which and then imagine like a lot of those basic elements of like of the way like Fable's world worked, but
okay,
without Fable's morality system, and I feel like that's a good representation of what Hogwarts Legacy is.
okay. I see. Yeah, that I can envision what you're describing.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to play it?
Yeah, I've probably played 24 hours. Like,
Okay.
so I'm like you. I was massively conflicted. I had that sort of inner turmoil battle of whether or not I
Yeah.
was going to play this game, much less review it. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, I've been waiting like probably at this point 20 years to play a good Harry Potter game.
Hmm.
And I think I finally came to the point of like separating the art from the artist because like I'm also like you, and I feel like I'm an ally at that point. So it is a hard choice, but I've also like
Yeah.
wanted to play something like this for so long. So I bit the
Yeah.
bullet and played it, and I like it, not love it. And
Okay.
I think it's that fact to where I'm like, even as a Harry Potter fan, there's so much that feels missing in the from the Harry
Mm,
Potter lore, and I also feel like uh I think there's a rule about licensed games to where like you want something that's extremely well polished and something that feels like it's high budget and representing the IP well. Like say like a
sure.
Batman Arkham game, so to speak. Like I feel like that's like one of the best representations of a licensed video game that we've ever gotten. Like Batman and
100%.
Spider-Man. Like those feel like good things that actually like pay homage to the lore and also like very properly represents what that lore is about. Hogwarts
Yeah.
Legacy does that in a very underbaked way. Like
Mm,
it's it pays homage to that, and it feels like this game is inside the Harry Potter universe, but it doesn't play by the rules of the Harry Potter universe.
I see.
For instance, like just to give an example, like in the game you have unforgivable curses that you're able to use. Like in the lore of Harry
Avada
Potter,
Kedavra.
yeah, exactly. So in like the books in the movies, like they go hardcore into saying like just the use of those curses is an automatic trip to Azkaban. It's like, but
Okay.
in this game, you can use it in the hallways, you can use it on bad guys, you can
Uh,
use it in front
I
of everybody. Yeah.
I have been seeing a lot of TikTok clips of people just like going up to random
Hmm.
NPCs and just like unaliving them.
Yeah, it is very much it's very much like that. And I think that uh like this game feels like it's missing a morality system because like the world of Harry Potter is based on a morality system. Like and
Sure.
especially Hogwarts. Like you go to like you read the books, you watch the movies, they have like a point system for every bad thing you do, for every good thing you do. And
Yeah.
this game does not care about that. Like it doesn't even have the point system there. It doesn't have the it doesn't. It really doesn't. And like
Mm,
a lot of the explanation for why things matter don't quite fit the lore into what you're doing. Like,
I see.
hey, like the broom teacher, like the one who's teaching you how to fly on like giving you flying tutorials and giving you like flying tasks. Hey, this random flying instructor is going to teach you now how to basically like freeze things. And I'm like, why is she teaching me how to freeze things? I'm like, she's my flying instructor. And by the way, why do I have to pop like 7 balloons in order for her to want to teach me something? So it has problems, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, and that's a shame, you know. I'm sure I'm sure it was a game that Harry Potter fans were waiting for. And it sounds like there's so many mixed reviews, right? Like, it
Hmm.
sounds like some people are like loving it and some people are like, this isn't that great. Um so yeah, you know, it's kind of a shame. Like I said, you know, if I get a chance to play it where I don't have to spend
To
my money
support,
on it,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and support the bigotry of the creator of the IP, then I might give it a try. But I think for now, it's one of those games that I'm gonna happily pass on.
I understand that. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you missed out on any other games this year?
Trying to think what else came out this year so
I would
far.
argue that the only big title that you didn't mention was probably Fire Emblem Engage and Hi-Fi Rush.
Yes, yes. You know what? That's true. Those did come out this year. Um, so Fire Emblem, I I have a weird relationship with Fire Emblem. I really enjoy their characters. And that's mainly because of Smash Brothers, right? So like
Mhm.
Ike, Marth, Roy,
Mhm.
are characters that for as long as they've been in Smash Bros, I love using them, and I think that they're phenomenal characters. I've read some of their story, their lore, and they sound like really cool, well-made characters. But then I tried playing the OG Fire Emblem, the one where you play as Marth,
Mhm.
cat.
Yeah.
Um, where you play as Marth. I tried playing it, and I was just like, besides the fact that the game is like really outdated, something about the combat was just not for me. Like, I like strategy games
Mhm.
to a certain degree. I can get really bored of strategy games. Or sorry, not strategy. I can get really bored of turn-based games. Like I
Yeah.
like turn-based, but at some point it's like, okay, that's a bit too much. I don't like strategy games whatsoever. Like
At all.
at all. Top down, like RTS, top down
Mhm.
view, stuff like that is just not for me whatsoever. Um, reason I couldn't get into stuff like StarCraft, Warcraft, stuff like there's strategy games are just not for me.
Yeah, I understand.
Um, and to I wanted to give Fire Emblem a try, and when I did try it and found out that it's a combination of turn based with strategy to it, I was like, I don't think this is for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely not gonna be in your bag.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I knew what Engage was. I will say though, Engage looked really cool. The idea of bringing back past legends and using them in your team was really cool, and the trailer was gorgeous. Like the game looks really cool. It has that anime aesthetic,
Mhm.
and in the trailer, like Marth was a big part of the trailer, and Marth is my main boy in Smash Bros. So I was like, this looks really cool. I was almost tempted to get it, but then I saw gameplay and I was like, that's right, this is Fire Emblem.
Yeah. I'm like right there with you, except like I love strategy games and I like turn-based games. So like I like Fire Emblem, but I only like Three Houses because like Three Houses is the one that has story. Like it has like a
Hmm.
good story, it has good connections with the characters. Like
Yeah.
Three Houses, I mean like Fire Emblem Engage feels like an anime where like where like what was that anime? That it was like it was super about fighting and it was just about martial artists. Do you remember? And it didn't have any story whatsoever. It came out semi recently. Um,
Um,
um, what was it?
are you talking about Baki?
Not Baki. It was like what was it? It had very slick action anime. Uh,
Was it the Korean one? High school or God of High School?
God of High School, yeah. God of High School. It's like it felt like God of High School in the sense to where like it felt like a lot of slick action and
Mm,
a lot of everything that you would like about that kind of gameplay if you're into that, but without any of the substance that makes all that feel worth it. Like all the story that leads up to, hey, this is why we're fighting in the first place. Like, hey, these
I
are why
see.
these characters are coming back. Like without all
Okay.
that, it's almost like it's almost that like if you were watching the Naruto fights without having any notion of anything that's going on, you know?
Yeah, that would I can see what you're saying. Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And like there are some people who really enjoy that because they don't want to have like the anime aspects of Fire Emblem to where like, hey, I don't
Sure.
want to learn about like 17 people's backstories. But like for me, I'm a story centric kind of guy. I'm like, give me all the backstories, make me actually care about whether or not this
Yeah.
character lives or dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so there was that, and then Hi-Fi Rush looked really cool, and I actually meant to get into that game as soon as it was announced. I was like, "Oh, this looks really good. I'm gonna start playing it." Um, but I decided to wait a bit because it looked really cool, and I like rhythm games.
Hmm.
Um, you know, depending on who you ask, they'll tell you that Sekiro's a rhythm game. Um, so I was very interested in Hi-Fi Rush. but I decided to give it some time. Let some reviews hit. Let's see some gameplay. Maybe wait for a sale on the game to get into it. So I'm kind of waiting. I like what I've seen so far. Um, I think I'm just gonna wait for like a decent sale and then probably play it.
I understand that. I understand
Yeah.
that.
Did you get a
So,
chance to try it out?
oh yeah, that's my game of the year so far, I think.
Really? Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah, it's everything I like about like me and you just got done talking about like some anime tropes. It feels like it feels like it has that same kind of heart and love from like the story from Avatar: The Last Airbender
Okay.
of
Okay.
like the Aang saga, to where like everything has serious elements to it, but it's very much jovial. It's very much that fun like
Mhm.
vibe. It very much like
Okay.
I can almost swap the main character out for Sokka, and they're almost the same character, so to speak, almost almost to the T.
Okay.
So I'm like, it is that element, and then it mixed in with that Devil May Cry action. It has like some elements from
Okay.
Devil May Cry. It has some elements from Kingdom Hearts. Like you got the turn like the rhythm based stuff from Guitar Hero all mixed in with one, and then you kind of have like some platforming elements that, while the platforming doesn't feel like perfect, it still is a fun kind of vibe. So I think it's a great game, and I want to see Xbox do more stuff like this, to where it's smaller bite-sized experience that are very like
Mm,
tight and confined, and like has like a purpose to it, rather than like
yeah.
seeing a whole bunch of like Starfields, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's very fair.
Yeah.
Especially because Starfield doesn't so far I'm not
I'm not impressed
excited
either.
whatsoever. No. That
No.
first trailer just that was not it.
Mm-mm.
Like
It
someone at Bethesda saw that and was like, "Yeah, this is the one, boys. This is the one, guys."
Yeah, and I'm like, "What were you watching, man?" Because this
No.
seems like a black, gray, and like brown version of No Man's Sky, is what I kind of got from it.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm looking at that engine and the way like the trailer showed it, and I'm like, "This looks just like Skyrim. It looks just like Fallout 4." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"That was 10 years ago, man. We need a
Yeah.
little more modern experience."
I know they said it's supposed to be Skyrim in space, but I'm not signing up for Skyrim's gameplay and game engine from 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, give me something much better, because otherwise it's gonna be another Cyberpunk.
Oh, you think it's gonna be like that bad at launch?
I
Oh,
think so.
I don't know if
Uh,
Xbox can afford a Cyberpunk right now.
yeah, I don't think so either, but we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens with that. But yeah, you make hi-fi sound really good. I might actually go check it out sooner than I thought so.
It's like
Um,
$30 right now on
no,
PC.
that's not bad.
So it's not like super bad.
Hey, get down from there. One sec.
No, do
Get
your
down.
thing.
Get down. I got my girlfriend some flowers for Valentine's, and they're up there,
Mhm,
and they love jumping up there to mess with that. And like, I have a very strict no rule of them being up on shelves and counters,
mhm.
especially not the kitchen one. And like every time they'll try to sneak up there, and as soon as I tell them to get off, they look at me and they're like, "Shit, I've been caught."
Yeah, I got caught. I got
It's
caught.
it's like Metal Gear Solid when you get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's like
exactly what happens.
that's so funny. That is so funny.
Yeah.
So
Um.
I gotta ask you a question.
Yeah.
What game has you put the most hours into this year?
This year,
Is it One Piece Odyssey?
probably, yeah. I think this year alone, yeah, probably. I put in close to 70 hours on One Piece Odyssey.
Okay.
Um,
What made you want to put that much time into the game? Is the game really that good?
the game is really good, and it's actually kind of a long game too. Like, I that amount of those 70 hours I put into it isn't really like outside of like it isn't like replayed time. It isn't like, oh, let's go hunt down achievements, really. It was just like the game, like this going through the story and a few hours into like side missions. Um so the game actually covers a decent chunk of One Piece story, and there's plenty to do in the game. Um, I went into it thinking it was gonna be like on the shorter side, but true to One Piece, it
Yeah.
was very long.
Oda doesn't do anything with that shorter side of the fence. No, for sure not.
Yeah,
Do you feel like
no, it
that
was
represented One Piece well?
100%. The characters, it's really cool that they got all of the voice actors from
Mhm.
the anime to reprise their roles in the game. And not just like the main characters, but like side characters, characters that we haven't seen in years in One Piece. They got the original voice actors for everybody, and that was really cool.
Do you get to see any of
Um,
the old villains in the game? Out of
you
curiosity.
do,
So
you
like
do.
Crocodile, Doflamingo, and all those.
You get to see Crocodile and Doflamingo. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Who would you
Um,
mainly use in the game?
oh, so my man is Soro. Soro is
Oh,
my go-to guy. Yeah, keeping it here with the green
hmm
motif. Yeah, no, Soto has been my favorite character from the second he showed up in that show, which is episode 2.
yeah. He's up there for me, especially like I think the moment he flipped as one of my favorites is the moment where he takes the blow for Luffy, where he takes Luffy's pain, and he's like, nothing happened. Oh, so good.
Episode 377. That's how good that moment is. I know exactly the episode. That was such a phenomenal. Everything about that episode is peak One Piece. Everybody, they just got done fighting Greco Moria. Everybody's like barely there. And a freaking another warlord shows up.
hmm
Kuma shows up. He's like, "Oh, I'm here to take Luffy," and Soda's just like immediately like, "No." He puts up a fight, and I love the moment where Sanji wakes up.
hmm
And Sanji's like, "Oh, well, you know what? No, you don't have to sacrifice yourself. I'm gonna be the one who." And Soda just takes his sword and knocks him out. He's like, "No, this
It's
is my
me.
moment.
hmm
Go back to sleep." Yeah, and then when he just takes all of Luffy's pain, and he's just like sitting there in the pool of blood, Sanji's like, "What happened?" He's like,
Nothing happened.
"Nothing, nothing happened."
It's so good.
Phenomenal.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Oh my lord, Soda's such a great character. Um, yeah. So in One Piece Odyssey, any chance I got to use Soto, I definitely utilized him. Um, so One Piece Odyssey uses a system. It's a system I've seen before in games where like you have your power, speed, and technique type, and it's like a triangle, right? So like power is strong against speed, speed is strong against technique, technique is strong against power.
Okay.
Um,
The rock
and
paper
Soto
scissors
was
element.
yeah, yeah,
hmm
yeah. So Soto was technique. So any enemy that was power, he was like really, really good at. And Soto's stats, like base stats for like his strength, his attack power is really good. So I decided, and the other cool thing with Odyssey is that you can do builds. So you have all these accessories that you can put, boosters on. So you can make more attack power, more defense, more HP, or whatever. So with Soto, I focused on a strength build. So Soto had the highest attack out of anybody on my party. So whenever he fought against, even like final boss kind of stuff, anytime that he fought someone who was a power, I would use his strongest attack and I would like decimate the enemy. It would take like almost their entire health bar with this one attack. Um, but the funny thing was when I would fight enemies that were speed. So speed is a strong against technique, meaning technique is weak against speed.
hmm
And I had enemies that were speed, and I was like, I refused to take Soto out of my party
What?
because I was like, I'm not gonna have a party without Soto. So I would tank the damage. And
hmm
so my build for Soto was so good that even though he was attacking an element that he was weak against, he would still deal an insane amount of damage.
That is crazy. Which
Yeah.
which one of the straw hats did you use that you weren't expecting to use as much?
I was surprised at how good Nami's character is for the game. So Nami's a speed type, so most of her attacks can be ranged attacks. But what I didn't expect out of her combat is Nami has, I think, by far the most amount of attacks that deal damage to the entire enemy field.
Oh.
Um, so the way Odyssey works, there's not like your side and the enemy side.
hmm
It's kind of like little pockets, like little what do they call them? Arenas, areas. So you can have like up to 4, I think, is the maximum that you can have. So you can have like you can have 4 characters. So you could technically have like each member of your party in a different arena. And depending on the attacks, there's attacks that hit one target, there's attacks that hit the entire group, the entire arena that you're in, and then there's characters that can do attacks that hit everything in the entire field. Um, Soto, Luffy, and Sanji. No, Soto and Luffy, I think, had one attack each that could deal damage to the entire field,
Hmm.
but Nami had like four of them. So it was really great when you found enemies that were weak against speed, and when there was a bunch of them, you didn't have to prioritize attacking whoever was going to attack next. You could just like do a one attack that would wipe the entire field. So that
That's
was
crazy.
pretty good. Yeah, her character was really good. Um, Usopp's character too. If you combined Nami and Usopp, Usopp could do things. So now you could start off with Nami doing an attack that would I forget the word. It wasn't stun or paralyzed, but it was like enchant. You could
Hmm.
enchant the enemies by having Nami show herself off, right? So the enemies, especially if they were guys, would like fall in love with her and be like dazed.
Hmm.
And then they would be susceptible to Usopp's like sneak attacks with, that one attack he takes out like a 10 ton
Usopp
hammer, but it's
Hammer.
actually just a balloon. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like a balloon. If you do that on an enemy, like normally you don't deal damage to them. Like it tells you that it's ineffective. But if you daze them with Nami and then do this attack, you deal an insane amount of damage because they're not thinking straight.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
s-
It was really cool. There was a lot of like cool combinations you could do with the characters.
so how was the story? Do you feel like it lives up to like typical One Piece story, or do you feel like it's lacking?
It was a really good story. It's kind of a shame that it's not canon.
Hmm.
Because it was a really cool story. Um and I think it's one of the One Piece stories that could easily be blended into the actual canon of the story and it would make sense. Um
Do you feel like it would be like an arc of its own, or more like a movie type?
I think it would be more of a movie.
Okay.
But just like I don't know if you watched Film Red.
Yeah.
Um,
One Piece Rare.
Film Red was really cool, and it's one of those stories that I think would make 100% sense if it was made canon. You might have to, obviously you can't go back and fix things, but I think
Hmm.
you could make it like, oh, it's a flashback in the future. Like later down the line, do a flashback and like explain some things. Because I believe it's canon that Shanks had a daughter. I think that was
Yeah.
established by Oda.
Hmm.
Um, but what is not canon is the events of the movie. But I don't see why they couldn't be. I think they could make them canon, and it would be a pretty cool story. Um, so with
So
this game, what's up?
I was gonna ask you before you continue. What is this app like post Wano app? Like Wano, or is it pre Wano?
So going into the game, that was the first question I had. I was like, oh, where does this fall in the timeline?
Hmm.
And the game itself is so isolated from the actual story that it's kind of hard to tell. The only way that I was able to guide off of that was based on the bounties that the crew has at that
Okay.
moment in time. And I believe this takes place right before the Wano arc starts, like before the Wano saga starts. Um,
Was
because
Jinbei with
in
you?
no, so Jinbei's not with them.
Okay.
So it's definitely before Wano.
Hmm.
And the bounties are Sanji's bounty is still 10,000 more than Zoro's. So
Hmm.
it's definitely after the events of Whole Cake Island.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to be right before Wano starts.
All right. Sorry to interrupt. I was just curious on where this
No,
was
no, you're good. You're
taking
good.
place. So how
Yeah.
does Chopper and Nico Robin play in this game? Do they feel good to play as?
Yeah, for sure. So Chopper has his monster point, so you
Hmm.
can transform into monster point and deal a lot of damage. Robin was a little bit of a letdown in terms of the combat. She does have a decent like array of attacks. Um, but I found myself not really having her in the party because her attacks, even though I had her boosted with attack and like all sorts of stuff, I just felt like her attacks didn't hit as strong as I would have liked them to. um she had a couple of attacks that deal damage to multiple enemies, but nothing to warrant using her instead of Soto or Brooke, who are both also technique.
Okay. Gotcha. My
Yeah.
last question on this. Do you like 1 out of 10? Do you I don't know if you like scoring games, but like what score would you give it, and what like would you recommend it to people?
I would give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Um, I obviously, if you're into One Piece, I 110% recommend you go check the game out because, like, One Piece. That's literally why I got the game. Um, if if you've never played One Piece, if you've never watched One Piece, if you have no clue what One Piece is, I would say don't play it because you're gonna spoil yourself a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
So definitely like go watch the anime, go read the manga before you consider playing it. Now, if you really don't care about spoiling yourself and you just want to play a good game, like it's still a pretty awesome JRPG with a good story, good gameplay, and plenty of content. Like I said, 70 hours just to get through like a single casual playthrough. So yeah, I would recommend it. And the reason I don't give it a perfect score or a higher score, um, there's a lot. One of the things that like really bugged me about the game is how much dialogue and unskippable cutscenes, unskippable dialogue there is.
Oh no.
You spend a good chunk of the game just like listening to conversations or like watching a cutscene instead of like actually playing. Um, and the one thing with the gameplay that like really bugged me, and I think I gotta blame Pokemon Legend Arceus for spoiling me with this.
Hmm.
Is you know how in Pokemon, the original Pokemon games, whenever you encounter an enemy, a Pokemon, you like bump into them, and then you get transitioned into like an arena, and you have like an actual fight.
Yeah.
That's exactly how One Piece Odyssey works. But I would have almost preferred that it didn't. I would have preferred it be like Arceus, where when you encounter a Pokemon that you want to fight, you kind of just like have the fight there and it happens. Because, over the course of the game, you have so many fights that it piles up every time that you have to like transition into the arena. There's like a camera pan of the enemies, and then you actually get to start fighting. And it's so blatantly obvious that even the devs must have realized it because they included an option to speed up the combat, so that you can, move faster through the encounters because it gets very tedious to, you're maybe just exploring and some enemy sees you and they run up to you, bump into you, and now you're doing an encounter that you didn't care for.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, so that part, that's part of why the game takes so long to do because you keep running into fight after fights because of that. Um, so yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that. I think it would have benefited them more if they didn't do something like that. If it was just like, oh, you ran into an enemy, you have the fight right there and then.
Okay. Final
Yeah.
question on just games in general. Out of all the games we talked about today, which one would you recommend the most to the listeners today?
Hmm. Oh, let's see.
I know that's putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of good games today. Let's see. So off the top of my head, I think the game that comes to mind is probably Metroid Prime Remaster.
Okay.
Um, it's a great game. It's one of those classics that got a good remaster done. And that Metroid Prime 1 is such a great adventure, especially it's I think it's one of the, if not the only 3D shooter that I can think of that is structured like a Metroidvania. You it plays just like a Metroidvania with the exploration, the getting lost. You get to a door and you can't open it because you need a specific weapon or a specific item that you don't have. So you got to do a lot of backtracking. So it's actually kind of neat to see that in a third person, oh, not third person, in a first person, sorry, first person shooter. Um, but in a 3D game as opposed to a 2D Metroidvania. So that's pretty cool. But then I remember Dead Space Remake. And I think if you're into horror, if you can tolerate a few heart attacks and a lot of anxiety, I think that is the game so far this year to check out because that remake was just chef's kiss.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So I got one last thing for you. Do you have time for one last segment of the show?
of course. Of
All
course.
right. So this, I don't think you were a part of this last time you were on. It's our trivia portion of the show. It's the are you?
Oh,
Yeah. It's
okay.
so it's a segment I like to call "Are You a Pro Nerd?" And this is you getting 5 questions based on 5 random topics in nerddom. I have a right here on my
Okay.
separate screen right here. I have a wheel of destiny, so to speak. Wherever the
Okay.
wheel lands on is your category. That's where your question is going to come from.
I
So
like it.
I've interviewed tons of people now since we've last spoken, and I I'm just going to let you know only one person has entered the Pro Nerd Hall of Fame by answering all 5 questions correct. Only
Okay.
one. So
No pressure, right?
no pressure, but I have a feeling you're going to be the second. So
Let's
on
see.
on the last question, you have a option between like category A or B. I'm not going to tell you which category is which, but you get to choose your own destiny here.
Okay,
So yeah, so and afterwards you can, if you want to go back and see what the question for B was, you can completely do that. But all that said, are you ready?
let's do it.
All right, so let's see.
Spin the wheel.
All right, let's see what the wheel lands on. The wheel of destiny has landed on Pokemon.
Oh boy.
Pokemon
Okay.
trivia. Okay.
Yikes.
It could be easy. You never know.
Yeah, or it could be what's Pokemon 382?
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't even ask you a question like that. I feel like that's doing you too dirty at that point. All right, but in that sort of vein, it is asking you about a Pokedex question. Here we go.
Of course.
All right, so in Generation 1 of Pokemon, there is a Pokemon by the name of Geodude. This Pokemon was in the Pokedex at 74. Geodude's last evolution is Golem. What is his middle evolution?
Ah man, I can picture the Pokemon. I just can't think of the name. So it is Geodude, and then Geodude evolves into. Oh man,
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, I can. Actually, wait. Can I even imagine the Pokemon? What is he? Because I remember the last one. He's literally just a sphere. Okay, so the middle one is like Geodude, but he's actually does he have he has multiple arms or just the two?
I can say for sure he has multiple arms.
Okay. But I'm not gonna solve. I don't recall the name. I recall what the Pokemon looks like, but I don't recall the name.
All right, are you tapping out?
Dude. Oh man. Yeah, what is it?
All right, he is tapping out. He has officially missed the first one. The answer was Graveler.
Ah, Graveler. Damn it. That's right.
Yeah, so you had Geodude, Graveler, and then Golem.
And Golem, yeah. Ah, man. I am ashamed. To all you Pokemon fans out there, I apologize. I wasn't huge on Pokemon.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all the good. Now let's spin the wheel again and see where it lands.
All right, come on. No whammies. No whammies.
No whammies.
Big money.
All right, it has officially landed on Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
All right. So, what entity did the Fellowship run away from in the Mines of Moria, but one member of the Fellowship had to turn back to fight?
Oh, the Balrog.
Yeah, you got it right. You got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shall not pass.
Oh, it's so epic. I love it.
Yeah. It's so good.
It really is. So you got one. You're 1 for 1. How you feeling so far?
There we go. Okay. I felt a bit confident going in. I was like, okay, I know my gaming trivia. And then we started off with Pokemon, and I was like, this can't be good.
Yeah, no, this can't be good at all.
But then you said Generation 1, and I was like, okay, that's like the one generation of Pokemon I genuinely recall, and I couldn't remember Graveler. That's so upsetting.
It's a deep dive. It is such a deep dive.
Yeah. But I'm glad, you said Lord of the Rings, and I was like, okay, I haven't watched the movies in a hot minute, and you said the mines, and my mind immediately went to Minas Morgul, where with the orcs and everything, and then you said, but the one member turns around, and I was like, oh, that has to be the Balrog.
Exactly. Exactly. I like it. All right. So
1 for 2. 1 for 2.
All right. So your next category is in the realm of DC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
More of a Marvel person, but we're gonna play.
We'll see. All right. This DC villain is fueled by a pathological rage that compels him to turn his odd physique and awkward waddle into a well-dressed forest for fear. What is this villain's name? His birth name?
Can you cut out a little bit? Can you repeat that?
Okay, this villain is fueled by a pathological rage that compels him to turn his odd physique and awkward waddle into a well-dressed force for fear. What is his villain name as well as his birth name or his birth name? And to give
Huh.
you a little hint or rework the question, this villain is a Batman-centric villain.
Okay, I guess for some reason I immediately started thinking about Batman villains. Odd physique and awkward waddle. Is that what he said?
Yes, he has an awkward waddle.
Um, odd physique. Um, would that happen? Filled with rage too. I feel like that's important. Who's like filled with rage?
Pathological rage.
Pathological rage. That wouldn't be Killer Croc, would it?
Is that your final answer?
No, that's not my final answer. Is so I forget the name of the dude, but it's the guy who's made of mud and he can turn into other things. So he came to mind. Killer Croc came to mind. I don't think it's Penguin. I doubt it's Joker. And I don't know that many Batman. So sure, let's go with Killer Croc as final answer.
The answer was indeed Penguin.
Oh, was it really? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
he has an awkward physique and he waddles. You know when he walks.
That's true. You know what? I guess I that should have been a dead giveaway. I guess I didn't when you said awkward waddle. That just like didn't register. I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, he's built like a penguin. You know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. No, I see it now. In retrospect, that makes a whole lot of sense.
It's all good. It's all good. Now
they say hindsight is 2020.
It really does.
2020 was a bad year, so I forgot about it.
It's all good. It's all good. We are now going into the realm of video games.
Okay, I'm good at those.
You know, the crazy thing about it is like our statistician has informed me that video game statistician, yeah, has informed me that this is the hardest. It was second to hardest category that the wheel lands on.
I think that makes sense, right? Because it's like just video games in general. You could ask me about a video game I've never even heard about.
Yeah, that one and Star Trek are like very few people. I don't think we've ever gotten a Star Trek like question right yet so far.
Okay, well I don't know anything about Star Trek other than Captain Kirk and Spock. I know Spock.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
All right, what do we got?
All right, so Pac-Man was designed to resemble which food?
Pizza.
You got it. You got it. How did you know that off the top of your head that quickly?
Because I've that's one of those like trivia, or not a question, but like tad bits of like a useless fact I've heard before. Okay. That I forget the creator's name, but he was eating a pizza pie and he took a slice out of it and was like, oh, that looks like a cool shape.
That is so dope. Okay, so you're 2 for 2 right now, and you're down to the final question. Do you want category A or category B?
Give me category A.
Category A. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. A it is. I regret to inform you that category A is in the realm of Nintendo.
Okay.
All right. So here we go.
Give it to me. What do we got?
All right. So. Okay. This one could be easy or it could be hard, depending on who you are.
Okay.
In 1988, Yukoyo and his team managed to develop the first handheld video game console to be compatible with interchangeable game cartridges. What was the name of that said console?
I believe that was the NES.
Is that your final answer?
Let's see. Nintendo. I know the. So there was a NES, which was a Nintendo Entertainment System. There was also the Super Nintendo, which came after. But if we go back, interchangeable cartridge. 64 was way later, and before that.
In 1988, Yokoyo and his team managed to create the first handheld video game console to be compatible with interchangeable game cartridges. What was it called?
I'm gonna go with NES. Final answer.
All right. Unfortunately, your answer is incorrect.
Damn it.
The
What
answer
did they? Yeah.
was the Game Boy.
Oh shit! You did say handheld. I don't know why.
Handheld. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. In my mind, I process handheld as in like a controller. Like a.
Yeah.
I'm so stupid.
I think the part that really like shook you because I saw the wheels start turning as soon as I said like game cartridges, and I think you focused on that part.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I for sure. I completely forgot the existence of the game.
It's all good, and we just had a Game Boy Direct almost, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's all
so
good.
so to the viewers at home, you can see why I stick to playing games instead of like going on stuff like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because I would lose at the first place.
It's all good. It's all good. Would you like to see the road not taken and see what you would have got if you went to the other way?
Yeah. What can you give me the question before without the answer? I want to see if I can get that one right.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you the category and the question. The category was the MCU trivia.
The
The
what?
Marvel, the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic
Oh,
Universe.
okay. I'm good at that.
Yeah. I feel good about this one. All right.
Okay. What's the question?
What crime was Scott Lang arrested for?
Breaking and entering.
That is correct. If you would have went that right, you got three correct instead of the two.
I would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun fact, I've actually been to a bunch of trivia for Marvel.
How
And
you do?
so okay, so I'm gonna try to make it a quick story, but both of the time, so I've been to a bunch of them, but there were
Mhm.
two times that I went here in Philly, and those two times I ended up getting second place, and I didn't get first place out of a technicality BS.
Oh no.
Um, the more prominent one, so uh, this one that we went to, it was three of my friends, and the team that was in first place was a team of like 10 people. So like, chances are they were cheating on their phones or whatever. But we were tied at the end. They did one final question for the two teams. And the question was, what is the name of the blank initiative that kickstarted the Avengers project? Obviously they didn't say Avengers, but the kickstarted
Mhm.
the MCU, I think was the way they worded. But they asked us to fill in the blank, right? So they were like, what is the blank initiative? The thing is called the Avengers Initiative, right?
Mhm.
They were asking for the blank. So on the paper, we wrote Avengers. When they gave it back to us, they're like, oh, you guys got the question wrong. You guys got second place. I was like, what was the correct answer? He's like, oh, it was Avengers Initiative. And I obviously argued. I was like, well, you guys asked for the blank, right? It's not called the Avengers Initiative. It's called the Avengers Initiative. Um, but the guy who was running the trivia was a guy that I went to college with, and we didn't like each other.
Oh
So as
no.
soon as he saw me, he's like, "Oh yeah, no, he's got it wrong." So
Mhm.
I tried arguing it, but the guy was in charge and he didn't like me, so he's like, yeah, no, you guys have it wrong."
That's insane.
Yeah, so we got cheated out of $50.
That is insane. That's a
It
whole
was
pizza.
yeah, or like half a carton of eggs.
Yeah, half of them. Just the six. Just the six.
Yeah, so
So
that was really annoying, but I know we killed it at that one and the other trivia. So, we got our MCU stuff pretty then.
okay. So Lit, it's been
Yeah.
so much fun having you on the show. I want to
Ah, thank you.
thank you for being here and thank you for spending so much time and just nerding out with me on this episode. Before
Of
you
course,
go,
thank you for having me.
no man, you're more than welcome. You're always a high esteemed guest here. I love
Thank
having
you,
you on
thank
the
you.
show. So before we go though, where can the good people find you?
So good people can find me on Twitter, at LitUnPlay. You can find me. LitUnPlay is short for literally unplayable. And you can find me as LitUnPlay on pretty much any platform. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok as well. I have been putting out some TikToks as of recent. And then if you want to join the Discord server, there's a link, which I guess if you make it all the way to the Twitter page, there's a beacons page in my bio, which has the links to everything: Discord, YouTube. YouTube is the only place that you can find me as literally unplayable. But for all the other purposes, LitUnPlay will do.
Okay. And everyone his beacon will be in the description of this episode so you can find him
Sweet.
right there. So
Perfect. Yep. So there you go. That's how you can find me. And yeah, Twitter's where I'm most frequently on. So if you ever want to catch me, that's probably the best place.
All right. Thank you so much for being here on the show, and we'll catch you in the next
Thank you.
time. All right. Peace
Sounds
out,
good.
Lit.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Hey, thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Also, for more videos just like this one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right here. Thanks again for watching the video, and for more like it, stay right here at the Pro Nerd Report channel. So that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Also hit the subscribe button for more videos just like this one. I also want to let you know about the single player experience Discord server. It's a perfect place for single player gamers to talk about the good single player games that they've been playing lately and to get video game recommendations. Think of it kind of like a book club for single player gamers. The link to join will be in the description. Once you're in, feel free to share your video game backlog list, talk about the good single player games you've been playing, or give your feedback on the show. If you have a game you think it should be recommended and should be reviewed, let me know about it right there. Before we go, I just want to thank you once again for listening to today's episode. Stay safe, stay gaming, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace.